It started with a footprint, a boot on a boot, 70 yards from goal, 17 seconds before the ball hit the net, and on that single frame of video, the entire credibility of this World Cup began to unravel. Egypt were leading Argentina 1-0 in the round of 16. They had just broken at devastating speed, Mostafa Zico slotting home what should have been a 2-goal cushion against the reigning world champions. The shirts came off, the celebrations erupted, and then the video assistant referee started rewinding. Not to the final pass, not to the offside line. All the way back to the other end of the pitch, to a moment when Egypt midfielder Marwan Attia was judged to have stepped on Lisandro Martinez's foot. The goal was scrubbed, Argentina stayed alive, and within minutes the word that has haunted this tournament was everywhere: rigged. Egypt's coach Hussam Hassan didn't just hint at it, he said it out loud, on the record, in front of the world's cameras. Perhaps they wanted to keep the world champion in the competition, he said. Perhaps they wanted Messi to stay in the running. His forward Zico was even more direct. It is clear that this tournament has been fixed. And here is the part that should terrify FIFA more than any single decision. When a coach can stand in front of the world's media and accuse the governing body of engineering a result, and the response from millions of neutral fans is a shrug of grim agreement rather than outrage at the accusation, the institution has already lost. But let us step back and look at the full picture, because the Egypt game did not land in a vacuum. It landed in the middle of the most controversy-soaked World Cup in living memory. And the pattern, once you start connecting the dots, is genuinely uncomfortable. The decision to disallow Zico's goal was, in the view of multiple refereeing experts, simply wrong. Graham Scott, a former Premier League official turned analyst, was blunt. The decision to disallow Egypt's goal is incorrect, he wrote. Attia's challenge on Martinez in the build-up was normal contact and should be regarded as such. It was also almost 100 yards from goal, and Argentina had every opportunity to regroup and defend. He called it an astonishing intervention and a massive overreach of the VAR's role to correct only clear and obvious errors. The Athletic's analysis went further, noting that standing on an opponent's foot is not automatically a foul. Attia is running alongside his opponent in a natural way, the analysis explained. There is no doubt that Attia treads on the right boot of Martinez, but that does not make it an offense. The attacking possession phase, which determines how far back VAR can rewind, is subjective. In the Premier League, it is much more likely the phase would have been set when the attack truly began, not at a routine challenge deep in Argentina's half. The VAR had 17 seconds and 70 yards to work with. Argentina had 10 outfield players behind the ball when the challenge occurred. They had every chance to defend. They simply failed to, and yet the goal was taken away. Now hold that in your head. Because 11 minutes from the end of the game, the exact opposite standard was applied. Argentina had clawed it back to 2-2. Deep into stoppage time, Egypt attacked. Mohamed Salah went down in the Argentina penalty area, claiming he had been tripped. No penalty was given, no VAR check was initiated. Argentina broke straight up the other end, and Enzo Fernandez headed in the winner. 2 incidents. 2 different standards, same referee, same VAR team, same stadium, same night. And Egypt's players were left slumped on the grass, convinced they had been robbed. The Egyptian Football Association did not stay silent. They lodged an official complaint with FIFA, demanding an investigation into what they called double standards and blatant errors. Their statement said several key incidents raised serious concerns and left profound questions about the consistency and fairness of decisions that directly influence the course of the game. They demanded the exclusion of French referee François Letexier and his entire crew from the tournament. This is not a routine complaint. This is a National Football Association effectively accusing FIFA of rigging a World Cup knockout match. And FIFA's response? Silence, followed by defense, followed by more silence. Pierluigi Collina, FIFA's chief refereeing officer, eventually broke his silence. He defended both decisions. On the disallowed goal, he said, "We believe that a foul is a foul, regardless of whether the foul appears obvious. If the referee did not see it on the field of play, the VAR can intervene." On the non-penalty, he said both the referee and VAR correctly judged the contact to be normal football contact. He also delivered a warning. "Nobody can question the integrity of the FIFA World Cup match officials," he said. "Nobody can claim that FIFA refereeing can be influenced by anyone, not even by the FIFA president." He warned that such accusations could expose referees and their families to abuse and threats. But here is the problem with Kalina's defense. It is technically correct. The laws of the game do allow VAR to rewind to the start of an attacking possession phase. There is no defined limit on time or distance. The decision was, in a narrow legalistic sense, within the rules. But the laws of the game are not the same as the spirit of the game. And FIFA's own head of referees had, just days earlier, publicly reminded everyone that officials at this tournament had been told to allow normal football contact and keep the tempo high. This World Cup was averaging fewer fouls per game than previous tournaments. Referees had been waving away exactly the kind of nothing contact that Adia committed. Then VAR reached back 17 seconds and nearly the full length of the pitch to find a shirt tug and delete a goal. That is not a fan complaint. That is the professional consensus. Multiple refereeing experts, analysts, and former officials all reached the same conclusion. The goal should have stood. The VAR intervention was a mistake. And when you stack that mistake on top of everything else that has happened at this World Cup, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. This is the tournament where the President of the United States phoned Gianni Infantino, and a red card suspension against the host nation's best striker was overturned using a clause never once used at a World Cup. Jurgen Klopp called it a disgrace. Wayne Rooney said Infantino should be ashamed. This is the tournament where hydration breaks conveniently chopped every half in two, an innovation reportedly worth around $500 million to American broadcasters alone. Critics called it an abomination and a desecration of the sport. This is the tournament where FIFA gave Donald Trump its inaugural Peace Prize. And now, for the France vs. Morocco quarterfinal, FIFA has appointed an entirely Argentine officiating crew, led by Facundo Tello, the first all-single nationality panel of the tournament. The perception, fair or not, is that Argentina would want France knocked out. Appointing Argentine officials against France in the same week that Argentina are being accused of benefiting from favorable refereeing is either staggering incompetence or something worse. The BBC's football issues correspondent put it plainly. Perception is often just as important, and appointing Argentine officials against France in the quarterfinals is not a great look. So let us take the conspiracy theory seriously, because millions of people around the world are taking it seriously. The motive is clear. Lionel Messi is the most marketable player in football history. This is almost certainly his last World Cup. A deep Argentina run sells advertising, drives ratings, and generates revenue in a way that an Egypt run never could. The pattern is clear. The uncarded Messi stamp against Algeria earlier in the tournament, the Balogun red card that was overturned, the 5 penalties Argentina received in Qatar, the unpunished handball against the Netherlands, and now, the 17-second rewind and the unchecked penalty appeal at the other end. There is your motive, there is your pattern, and there is your opportunity. But let us be honest about the other side, because this channel does not hand out accusations for free. There is no proof. None. What exists is a mountain of circumstantial evidence and an absolutely appalling pattern, which is not the same thing as a fix. Every single decision in Atlanta has a legitimate defense, uncomfortable as that may be. The disallowed goal was, under the actual laws of the game, reviewable. The challenge did lead directly into the move. Even the critics conceded it was probably within the rules, if not the spirit. The non-review of Egypt's late appeal involved a penalty claim, which carries a much higher bar than a foul check. Two decisions that look identical to the naked eye, governed by two different thresholds, producing opposite results. That is not necessarily corruption. That is a broken system doing exactly what it was built to do. And there is a harder truth for Egypt buried in all of this. Zico's disallowed goal was scratched off when Egypt led 1-0. 6 minutes later, Zico scored again anyway. This one counted. Egypt were still 2-0 up with 11 minutes to play. No referee took that lead away from them. They lost it. Argentina scored 3 times in 11 minutes. Cristian Romero outjumped everyone for a header. Messi produced a half volley of ludicrous technique. Enzo Fernandez attacked a cross in the 92nd minute. Zico himself half admitted the gap, saying that if Argentina had won by their own effort, it would have felt completely different. But some of it was their own effort. The comeback was real. Their goalkeeper Mostafa Choubert, who was heroic all night, said plainly that mistakes crept in during the last 10 minutes. Egypt were wronged. Egypt also did not hold on. But here is the thing, and it is the entire reason this story matters more than one match. FIFA does not get to hide behind the technicalities anymore because it burned the benefit of the doubt itself. When you suspend a red card because a president called you, when you invent quarter-time breaks worth $500 million and call it player welfare, when you hand a head of state a peace prize, when your own head of referees tells the world he wants light-touch officiating, and then a VAR rewinds 17 seconds to protect the biggest name in the sport. When you appoint an all-Argentine crew to a quarterfinal in the same week, you are being accused of favoring Argentina. At that point, you have no credibility left to spend. You do not get believed because you have taught everybody not to believe you. That is the real damage here. Not that the fix is in, because nobody can prove that. And the honest answer is that it probably is not. The damage is that it no longer matters whether it is true. When the New York Times runs an analysis headlined, "Egypt's goal against Argentina should never have been ruled out," and simultaneously has to write, "Talk of a conspiracy is nonsense," the institution has already lost the argument. When the BBC runs a piece asking, "Are Argentina being treated favorably at World Cup?" the question itself is the problem. When the Mirror reports that Argentina hit with official FIFA complaint after VAR use sparked rigged claims, the damage is done. Egypt's grievance is really football's grievance. The suspicion has become the story. Argentina march on to the quarterfinals, chasing back-to-back World Cups, with Messi one goal clear at the top of the scoring charts and his captain crying tears of relief instead of defeat. Egypt fly home with the best performance in their entire history, a goalkeeping display for the ages, and an unshakable conviction that the tournament was never theirs to win in the first place. And the rest of us are left with the question that FIFA has spectacularly failed to answer because it never even tried. Was that just football, or was it something else? You have seen all the evidence I have now: the footprint on the boot, the 17-second rewind, the all-Argentine crew, the presidential phone call, the commercial breaks, the pattern stretching back to Qatar, the technical defenses, the gaping credibility gap. Was Egypt robbed, or did they just choke? Either way, FIFA's worst nightmare has come true, not because the fix is in, but because nobody believes it is not.